You are currently positioned at a true crossroads. I don't mean this in a symbolic or poetic sense, I mean it literally. At this exact second, you are standing on the brink of a reality that has patiently anticipated your arrival. Stumbling upon this message isn't a random accident. The fact that you are hearing my voice today is a direct validation. The doorway stands unbarred, and you are positioned squarely before it. However, before you take that step through, you must fully grasp your past experiences. Your previous struggles are the precise catalyst that made this gateway materialize. Reflect on the most recent occasion you were on the verge of success. I mean dangerously close. That business agreement that nearly finalized, or the romance that felt almost perfect. The wealth that finally materialized, only to inexplicably slip through your fingers before you could truly claim it. A pathway cracked open just wide enough to give you a glimpse, allowing you to bask in the glow of what lay beyond before shutting tight. It didn't slam shut with force. Rather, it closed silently at the very last instant, as though a hidden gear in your life's machinery was programmed to trigger a fatal error without your conscious permission. You convinced yourself it was merely misfortune. You blamed it on poor timing. You rationalized that others possessed unfair advantages, better networks, or some mysterious trait of worthiness that you fundamentally missed. And whenever you repeated this narrative, it resonated as the absolute truth. It seemed like a flawless assessment of your circumstances. Yet, this wasn't an observation at all. It was an active internal software running on loop. And today, through this very broadcast, that continuous loop terminates. This won't happen because I'm handing you a secret tactic or a magic equation. It will happen because you are on the verge of a profound realization, one that will completely rewire your perception of existence and reveal the truth of your situation. Once this clicks, and you clearly perceive the underlying machinery, your perspective is permanently altered. The past iteration of yourself, the one constantly stuck in the nearly there phase, dies right here. A completely renewed identity is what walks forward. That represents the portal awaiting you. The only remaining choice is if you will step forward. Allow me to explain the architecture of this portal. Within quantum physics, we observe a principle known as superposition. Any quantum entity, be it a photon or an electron, occupies countless potential conditions all at once. This remains true until the exact second it is measured or observed, compelling the universe to make a definitive choice. Prior to that intervention, the object represents infinite potential. Afterward, it solidifies into a singular form. This collapse happens in an instant. It isn't a slow transition. It doesn't gently shift into its final shape. In a flash, a fluid wave of infinite options becomes a fixed, permanent physical fact. I am not using this as an analogy for the human mind. This is the literal operating system of consciousness. It is the blueprint of your functioning and the fabric of reality itself. It perfectly explains why you perpetually hover at the edge of success. Let's break down how superposition applies to your life. At this very second, you occupy various potential realities all at once. There is an iteration of you who has already conquered the barrier of wealth. A version exists right now living in a trajectory where finances pour in effortlessly, where pathways unlock and remain unblocked, and where golden chances never evaporate at the final countdown. This prosperous identity isn't a fantasy. From a quantum perspective, it holds the exact same validity as the struggling version of you experiencing this moment. Both realities are entirely legitimate and active. Therefore, the dilemma isn't whether your wealthy self is real, it absolutely is. The true mystery is, what is blocking the quantum collapse? Why isn't your wave of infinite potential solidifying into that exact, prosperous, and unchangeable physical state? The culprit is that internal software. This program is an actual frequency, not a figure of speech, but a quantifiable electromagnetic wave constantly emitted by your physical form. Every thought you have casts an electrical spark into the quantum fabric, while your feelings produce a magnetic pull. Combined, they forge a distinct energetic footprint, broadcasting outward non-stop, day and night, entirely independent of your conscious awareness. Now, the quantum field isn't some magical or occult concept. It is the foundational layer of our material world, meticulously studied by scientists for over a century. This field actively reacts to your energetic broadcast. It solidifies abstract potentials into tangible life events that perfectly mirror the frequency you send out. Again, this isn't poetic philosophy. It is hard science. The hidden coding operating within you, the glitch that shuts opportunities prematurely, drains your finances, and turns nearly there into not quite carries its own specific resonance. It vibrates exactly at the frequency of almost. It acts as the energetic fingerprint of a person whose mind visualizes wealth, yet whose nervous system is crippled by the terror of losing it. You picture victory, but your biology is saturated with the hormones of scarcity. You speak affirmations of having made it, while your true broadcast is a signal of endless chasing. The universe's fabric possesses no ability to separate your desires from your current state of being. It exclusively replies to your emissions, and unfortunately, the subconscious script has been radiating the almost signal on your behalf for years. The open threshold beckoning you right now represents the vital bridge between your current limiting resonance and an entirely new vibration. It is the shift from the frequency of nearly there to the resonance of it is done. The transition between the self continually nearing the edge and the self that has fully stepped over. To grasp exactly how to traverse this divide, to understand the composition of this barrier and the mechanics of this leap, we must travel back in time way past the modern discoveries of quantum mechanics. We must return to the earliest human comprehension of this universal system. We must explore the divine vocabulary, long before the majestic temples of ancient Egypt were erected, prior to the cycles of ruling pharaohs and the carving of colossal desert monuments. There existed a primal energy, acknowledged as the bedrock of the cosmos. The Egyptians named this energy Heka. Today, we might mistakenly label this as magic or the supernatural, something defying natural order. But Heka was quite the opposite. It was the most profound natural law in existence. It represented the deep knowledge that life is not a rigid, predetermined maze you simply walk through. Instead, existence is a fluid canvas of potential, reacting directly to conscious vibration. It can be molded, steered, and programmed through the exact application of intention and acoustics. The ancient Egyptians grasped a truth that modern physicists are just starting to prove with equations. Our cosmos isn't built from solid objects. It is constructed from data. It consists of blueprints and oscillating waves that assemble into the physical materials, situations, and daily events we perceive. Because the universe is composed of information, the ultimate weapon at your disposal is the instrument capable of programming that data. It is the device that plucks a design from the unseen realm, from the quantum sea of sheer potential, and grants it physical structure. It assigns a distinct vibrational fingerprint, compelling the surrounding energy field to solidify into reality. That extraordinary instrument is language. I don't mean speech in the modern sense, where we merely report on what has already happened, narrating our daily struggles, anxieties, and obstacles. I mean language through the lens of ancient Egypt, an active generative power. It acts as a coding mechanism for existence itself, serving as the crucial link connecting the unseen realm of limitless options to the tangible realm of lived events. Traditional writing systems pale in comparison to hieroglyphs, known to the Egyptians as Medu Neter, or the words of the gods. These glyphs weren't just pictures standing in for objects. Every character held the actual spirit of its subject. Tracing a symbol with the right mental focus literally summoned its core energy into the material world. Pronouncing a word with the exact pitch and razor-sharp purpose didn't just point to an object, it literally birthed it. It was a method of reaching into the infinite quantum void and dragging a precise arrangement of reality right into physical manifestation. The undisputed sovereign of this cosmic power was Thoth. Depicted with the head of an ibis, he was the celestial record keeper and the voice that articulated universal law. Later recognized by the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus Hermes the thrice great, his profound wisdom formed the bedrock of alchemy, Hermeticism, and Kabbalah. He laid the groundwork for every esoteric path that recognized existence as pliable, consciousness as generative, and the cosmos not as a rigid machine you are trapped within, but as an interactive web you constantly converse with. Thoth didn't cast spells like a fantasy wizard chanting random, meaningless syllables. He wielded spoken sound like a surgical tool. He recognized that speaking aloud is the vital connector linking formless concepts to concrete reality. Thinking is noiseless and ethereal. It hovers within the quantum matrix as raw electrical potential and pure possibility. Spoken words, however, are deeply physical. They carry measurable frequencies. They literally displace air particles and generate trackable vibrations. Speaking is the initial phase of materializing a concept, the opening move in a cascade that converts abstract energy into lived encounters, turning hidden patterns into visible occurrences. Your vocal cords act as the primary construction equipment for your life. It isn't just about thinking happily, visualizing goals, or mindlessly reciting affirmations while your nervous system secretly broadcasts the frequency of doubt. Instead, when your speech is loaded with the undeniable electromagnetic weight of total certainty, when your mind, emotions, and vocal tone merge into one synchronized transmission, your words become an absolute directive that the cosmos is structurally designed to obey. This is the great secret Thoth possessed. This is the exact art that the sages of Hermopolis, the ancient metropolis dedicated to Thoth and the power of the word, devoted their entire lives to perfecting. They pursued the flawless alignment of intellect, emotion, and sound into one inescapable frequency. It is a unified signal the quantum void simply cannot disregard, compelling it to collapse infinite possibilities into the exact material circumstance dictated by the spoken command. However, there is a crucial distinction to make. This is the exact dividing line between a true master and someone perpetually stuck in the nearly there phase. It is the boundary separating those who actively dictate their reality from those who simply cast wishes into the void. The generative energy of Heka, the raw power of vocal creation, requires an unobstructed pathway to travel. The ancients gave this precise pathway a title, Ma'at. Ma'at represents the ancient Egyptian concept of universal harmony, absolute truth, and flawless equilibrium. It signifies perfect synchronization between the higher realms and the physical world, your internal state and external surroundings, and crucially, your thoughts, speech, and actions. It shouldn't be confused with a standard moral framework built on societal rules. Rather, Ma'at is the literal blueprint of how the cosmos operates. It acknowledges that reality functions on a strict, geometric logic. When your inner landscape perfectly mirrors that universal design devoid of internal friction, contradictions, or energetic clashes, you transform into an unblemished conduit for creative power. At that point, Heka surges through you without resistance, empowering your spoken commands to instantly collapse quantum possibilities into your desired physical reality. Operating outside of Ma'at guarantees a life of constant resistance. It feels like rowing frantically upstream, only to lose ground or get dragged backward by an unseen riptide just as you reach the shoreline. You are intimately familiar with this exhausting sensation. You know the deep frustration of doing everything right, only to watch things inexplicably fall apart at the finish line. This isn't the universe punishing you. It is simply the cosmos echoing your internal discord back to you with flawless mathematical accuracy. The ancient Egyptians labeled this state of chaos Isfet. It triggers whenever we fall out of rhythm with cosmic harmony. It happens when our behavior betrays our promises, or our speech masks our true thoughts. It occurs when we verbally claim a belief, yet our physical biology radiates the exact opposite vibration. We might chant about wealth, but if our nervous systems are deeply wired for scarcity, we fail. If our lips speak of arriving, but our electromagnetic aura hums the tune of almost, we generate massive internal friction. This warfare between conscious desires and subconscious programming creates a dense, energetic static. Imagine trying to tune into a crystal-clear radio station while another transmitter blasts noise on the exact same frequency. The output is a distorted mess. Consequently, the quantum field cannot interpret your request. It defaults to answering the strongest signal, which is invariably the deeply ingrained subconscious script running in your body. To visualize this, picture a flowing river. A clear, unobstructed riverbed allows water to rush forward with immense speed and power. However, if the path is choked with boulders, debris, and sharp turns, the flow becomes sluggish and murky. Ma'at is that perfectly cleared riverbed. Embodying Ma'at means hauling out the heavy boulders of internal contradiction. These boulders are the self-deceptions you harbor while pretending to be confident. They are the broken commitments to yourself and others, and the daily choices driven by anxiety rather than authenticity. Each contradiction acts as a dam, stifling your momentum, muddying your energetic broadcast, and preventing the universe from receiving clear instructions. The two-phase formula of creation. This brings us to the two-step mechanism mastered by Thoth and the ancient scholars of Hermopolis. Phase 1. Attain Ma'at. Cultivate absolute inner congruence. Your thoughts, speech, and behaviors must lock into perfect synchronization, eliminating all internal dissonance. Phase 2. Command the field. Once anchored in that flawless alignment, unleash the word. Vocalize your reality. Direct the quantum field using the total, concentrated force of Heka, merging intellect, emotion, and sound into a singular, undeniable broadcast. The fatal error most individuals make is entirely skipping the first phase. They rush to issue commands, repeating positive mantras and visualizing grand success, only to be baffled when their reality remains static. Their circumstances don't shift because they are shouting commands of prosperity over a riverbed choked with debris. They are attempting to override a deeply rooted biological program using nothing but surface-level words. The old script cannot simply be out-talked. The underlying frequency must be interrupted. You have to dredge the riverbed. This demands a profound transformation, not just altering your vocabulary, but fundamentally changing your physiological chemistry and the unconscious patterns that have run for so long. You mistake them for your actual identity. You are standing precisely at this crossing point. On your current side of the boundary exists the individual perpetually stuck in the almost. This is the version of you who recites the right phrases while radiating profound doubt, who memorizes every manifestation technique but fails to produce results because a deeper, sabotaging script is running beneath the surface. This is the you who forever nears the edge but never quite steps over. Waiting on the other side is a radically different version. This is the self who has embodied Ma'at and dredged the internal riverbed. This version projects an undeniable, unified broadcast of already having. It is a frequency rooted in possession rather than longing, in finality rather than pursuit, and in living a materialized reality rather than desperately hunting for one. For this evolved version of you, doors swing open and permanently remain that way. Wealth flows in and stays anchored. Opportunities no longer evaporate at the 11th hour because the subconscious virus programmed to destroy them has been completely uninstalled. The portal stands wide open. The moment to cross is right now. However, before we dive into the practical exercises, before breaking down the exact mechanics of how to execute this transformation, I need to share a narrative with you. Certain profound truths can only be transmitted through storytelling. It's a method of understanding that completely circumvents your logical brain and anchors deeply into your physical body. It lands precisely where your internal software operates, hitting the exact spot where genuine transformation occurs. This is the legend of the two scholars. Long ago in Hermopolis, during an era when Thoth's wisdom was still actively practiced by mortals, two pupils spent 7 grueling years training under a single mentor. Their names were Amenhotep and Ka. Their education was identical. They deciphered the exact same ancient texts, endured the same rigorous mental conditioning, prayed in the same sanctuaries at identical hours, and chanted the exact same divine verses. At the culmination of their 7th year, the master summoned each of them privately and delivered an identical final test. Venture into the merchant squares and manifest something out of thin air. You have 30 days. Amenhotep marched out of the temple with a burning intensity. He had mastered the vocabulary and memorized the vibrational frequencies. He possessed the holy syllables of prosperity and knew the exact vocal pitches that the ancient texts claimed would bend reality to his will. He aggressively stormed the markets and began to decree. He forcefully announced his inevitable wealth to the merchants, artisans, and passing crowds. He projected his voice with immense volume and power. He mentally pictured his success exactly as instructed and rigidly followed his daily rituals at the designated times. And things would almost materialize, again and again. A trader would show eagerness, only to suddenly back out. A lucrative trade would reach the final handshake, only to spontaneously crumble. When the 30 days expired, Amenhotep presented himself to the master with nothing but tales of nearly. He brought proof of intense effort, but no actual victory, only endless anecdotes of how close he had gotten. Ka's approach was entirely different. Upon leaving the sanctuary, he bypassed the markets entirely and retreated to the riverbanks. For 3 full days, he sat in absolute stillness by the water. He didn't chant, he didn't practice rituals, and he put on no grand performance. He simply observed the flowing water. During those 72 hours, Ka achieved something Amenhotep hadn't managed in 7 years of rigorous schooling. He examined himself with brutal honesty. He analyzed the exact spaces where his internal landscape was fractured by contradiction. He noticed that while his mouth claimed to trust the cosmos, his physical posture held the tight, defensive tension of a man who trusted absolutely nothing. He recognized that while his conscious mind preached abundance, his nervous system was secretly running the survival script of a traumatized child, a child convinced that resources always run dry, that joy is temporary, and that you must cling desperately to what little you have before it is snatched away. Ka didn't shame himself for these deep-seated contradictions. He didn't attempt to drown them out by yelling positive affirmations louder. He simply acknowledged them with total clarity, stripping away all the emotional drama and excuses. And in that space of clear, unvarnished observation, a profound shift occurred. It didn't happen because he forced it. It happened because the act of unflinching, precise self-observation is the fundamental first step of achieving Ma'at. It is the genesis of true alignment. It marks the exact second you stop lying to yourself about the energy you are actually transmitting to the world. That abrupt halt, that flash of radical transparency, is the first heavy boulder being hauled out of the riverbed. Following his 3 days by the water, Ka finally entered the marketplace. He didn't shout. He didn't force a performance. When he spoke, it was with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who already possessed the result. This wasn't a calculated trick or a manifestation tactic. It was genuine because, during his time at the river, his core frequency had fundamentally altered. By simply witnessing his internal contradictions, they had started to unravel. His energetic broadcast became focused and unified. His internal riverbed was clearing out. When Ka returned to his master 30 days later, he brought back tangible proof of having forged something from nothing. It wasn't a near miss or a close call. It was a complete, concrete, and fully realized manifestation. The wise master studied his 2 pupils in silence for a long time. When he finally spoke, his words caught them both off guard. Amenhotep, the master, began, "You mastered the art of speaking the word. But Ka, you mastered the art of becoming the word," he continued. "A word shouted by a fractured mind is nothing more than a desperate plea. A word spoken by an undivided soul is an absolute decree. Thoth didn't merely memorize holy syllables. Thoth didn't merely memorize holy syllables. He was the divine names. He stood as the breathing incarnation of the forces he called upon. That is precisely why the physical world rearranged itself to fit his commands. It wasn't the vocabulary doing the work. It was the sheer power of the entity speaking them." Amenhotep pondered this heavily. Finally, He questioned, how do I transform into the word itself? How do I bridge the gap between intellectual understanding and physical embodiment? The mentor replied, the answer has been within you for 7 years. The real issue is whether you will finally stop merely understanding the threshold and genuinely step across it. This represents the portal. It is the exact boundary Amenhotep faced, and it is the very same threshold you are confronting today. The existence of this doorway is never up for debate. It is always there. The only variable is whether you will cease hesitating and finally walk through. If this message is resonating deep within your bones, if you feel an internal realignment happening below the surface of your conscious mind, make sure to like this video and subscribe. It allows us to continue exploring these profound depths together. Now, I will break down exactly what this transition entails. I am not speaking symbolically. I will give you the literal, step-by-step mechanics of what occurs within your physical biology, your neural pathways, and your energetic footprint when you pivot from nearly there to already accomplished. Your first crucial lesson mirrors the profound realization of Neville Goddard. He interpreted this ancient Egyptian knowledge into modern terminology during the 1900s, concepts that current neuroscience and quantum biology are now validating with cold, hard data. Your deeper subconscious cannot comprehend the future. It is incapable of processing events that will occur eventually. It exclusively decodes the present moment. It only understands what is actively unfolding right now, within the visceral, sensory reality of your physical form. This is precisely why yearning is a snare. It isn't that ambition is inherently evil. Rather, the sheer act of longing, the posture of craving, stretching for something, and currently lacking it, emits a massive signal of emptiness. It broadcasts that the prize is far away, stuck in a tomorrow that hasn't materialized. Consequently, your subconscious, which dictates your energy signature and controls the vibration you radiate into the universe around the clock, interprets this feeling of lack as a direct command. It actively traps you in that void. It locks you into the nearly there vibration, because that is the emotion you relentlessly and habitually generate. It becomes your biological baseline, the default mode your nervous system always reverts to. The ultimate paradox, a razor-sharp, incredibly counterintuitive truth that serves as the master key to this portal is this. To manifest your goal, you must completely drop the desire for it and fully inhabit the reality of current ownership. I don't mean faking it, daydreaming, or slapping a positive post-it note on your bathroom mirror while your gut still churns with scarcity. I mean genuinely transforming your visceral reality. You must alter what your biology accepts as its standard operating state, shifting your energetic output from I need to I possess. Goddard termed this the assumption. Assuming a reality means living inside it, not grasping for it. It means skipping the distant visualizations and the hollow affirmations laced with hidden skepticism. You must physically step into that new identity. Allow it to serve as your permanent residence. The sensation of completed victory must become far more deeply ingrained and customary than the sensation of striving. Here is where ancient mysticism and contemporary research perfectly align. What Goddard labeled the assumption, and what the sages of Egypt called existing in Ma'at, that absolute internal synchronization, is exactly what modern pioneers like Joe Dispenza and the HeartMath Institute are proving. They define this through the lens of neuroscience as electromagnetic coherence. It is a scientifically measurable and repeatable state where a person's intellect and feelings merge into one undivided, laser-focused broadcast. Remember, your mind provides the electrical spark within the quantum web, while your heart provides the magnetic pull. Fused together, they generate a continuous energetic pulse. And the quantum matrix, which, again, is the literal foundation of physical matter studied by top scientists for over a century, reacts directly to this pulse. It condenses floating probabilities into concrete events that perfectly mirror your emitted vibration. If your brain visualizes victory but your stomach twists with the terror of defeat, the magnetic emotion overrides the thought. Emotion is the magnetic gravity. It is the primary language the universe decodes, and if it decodes panic, it reads almost It senses the exact resonance of someone perpetually walking up to the door, only to run away in fear. Consequently, the universe answers with flawless, unfeeling, mathematical accuracy. It molds your physical environment to match your transmission. It hands you a surplus of nearly prior. It grants you endless journeys with zero destinations. It provides you with a lifetime of doors that crack open, only to slam shut in your face. The universe isn't penalizing you, nor does it deem you undeserving. Rather, you are a highly efficient transmission tower, and you have been projecting the vibration of almost with incredible intensity and consistency. Your internal software isn't your adversary. It is simply executing your hidden commands flawlessly. The trap is that you've been issuing these directives completely blind. You've been radiating a frequency unconsciously, trapped in a paradigm you assumed was just objective reality because it felt so familiar. At this exact second, that blindness terminates. Let's examine the literal biological mechanics of this transformation. When you genuinely anchor into the state of already when it's deeply felt rather than forcefully faked, and the sensation of having becomes your new normal, your physiological baseline transforms. Your nervous system, which has been trapped in a chronic, low-level state of emergency, perpetually bracing for the inevitable last-minute disappointment, finally powers down its alarms. This happens organically because the emotional and mental data it receives has fundamentally altered. The new directive from your consciousness is no longer brace for impact, but rest in arrival. The tight grip in your shoulders melts away. Your jaw softens. Your gut, previously knotted by the persistent anxiety of almost, unwinds. Your physical vessel stops hemorrhaging the massive amounts of energy required to sustain a scarcity mindset, vital energy that is actually meant for creation, magnetism, and expansion. Through this profound physical release, your brain chemistry undergoes a metamorphosis. Fresh neural networks begin to wire together. The deeply entrenched circuits dedicated to the loop of approaching and failing start to wither from disuse. Simultaneously, new pathways, those built on the blueprint of fulfillment and arrival, solidify and grow dense. You undergo a literal neurological rebirth. You shed the brain architecture of lack and grow the wiring of prosperity. As your neurology upgrades, your entire perceptual filter shifts. What you draw into your orbit transforms. The quantum web reorganizes itself around you because your broadcast has changed from almost to accomplished. The cosmos, what the ancient Egyptians called the mind of the all, answers back. This isn't a cosmic reward or a lucky break. It is a strict, mathematical inevitability. It is the inescapable result of a pure frequency interacting with a responsive universe. It is the physical manifestation of Ma'at being in flawless synchronization with universal law. What others dismiss as mere luck or coincidence becomes your daily physics. The perfect contact reaches out at the exact right time. The ideal opening manifests the moment you are equipped to handle it. You do not magnetize what you desperately want. You magnetize who you fundamentally are. To embody Ma'at is to vibrate at a level where your desired reality is simply the natural, unavoidable byproduct of your existence. You have reached the boundary line. Now, we step over it. I am going to guide you through a threshold crossing, not a mere mental drill or a superficial technique, but a profound somatic shift designed to measurably alter your energetic output. This will initiate the dredging of your inner riverbed. It is the catalyst moving you from the vibration of nearly to the vibration of already. Settle into a posture that is comfortable and quiet. Don't force your posture into rigidity. Simply find a grounded stillness. Cultivate the kind of tranquility that arises when you finally stop chasing and allow yourself to simply exist right where you sit. Let your eyes close. Take a single, profound breath. Nothing performative. Just draw the air deep down, past your ribs, and into your lower abdomen. This simple action signals directly to your biology. We are safe. We are no longer hunting. We are no longer bracing for failure. We are grounded. We are ready to cross. Now, pull your focus into the very center of your chest. I mean this literally. Direct your physical awareness to the space right behind your breastbone, the core of your actual heart. If it assists your focus, rest your hand over this area. Notice the physical heat radiating from your palm into your body. Notice the subtle rise and fall beneath your palm. Now, begin to inhale and exhale with a slow, measured rhythm. Imagine the air isn't entering your lungs, but flowing directly in and out of that central space. Your heart itself is taking the breath. Draw the air into the heart and release it from the heart. Allow this steady cadence to anchor you for a moment. Just the breathing, just the center, just profound quiet. Within this tranquility, your biology is actively transforming. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute have mapped this exact phenomenon. By directing rhythmic, concentrated focus to the cardiac center, your heart rate variability alters. The chaotic beat organizes into a coherent, harmonious pattern. As this cardiac coherence locks in, your brainwaves synchronize to match it. Your nervous system pivots away from the sympathetic fight-or-flight mode, the anxious, bracing energy of almost, and drops into the parasympathetic state. This is the domain of deep restoration, open to receiving rather than tensing against potential failure. Maintain that gentle cardiac breathing. Now, without straining or forcing, invite an emotion to surface. Do not think about an emotion. Physically experience it. Recall a specific point in time when life was simply, undeniably wonderful. It need not be a grand event. It could be the simple heat of the sun on your skin, the comforting presence of a loved one, a burst of authentic laughter, or a flash of deep contentment. A fraction of a second where the universe felt flawlessly aligned. Allow that pure sensation to bloom within your chest cavity. Suspend all analysis. Simply let the biological chemistry of that perfect memory saturate your physical form. Feel it radiate outward from your sternum, cascading down your arms, settling into your abdomen, and reaching your fingertips. Let it wash over you as a tide of absolute well-being. At its most fundamental level, this is the vibration of enough. It is the energetic signature of already here. Understand that this is not a mental visualization exercise. You are executing a literal frequency upgrade. Right now, in this exact second, you are tangibly and measurably rewriting your electromagnetic broadcast. You are abandoning the transmission of nearly there and emitting the signal of fully realized. You are stepping out of the chase and standing in the arrival. Anchor yourself in this sensation. Let it stabilize until it becomes your new default setting, the sensation your biology now recognizes as its standard operating mode. Now, from within this warm, resonant frequency of having, let a mental picture naturally emerge. Do not picture a distant goal or a desperate wish. Visualize a scenario that is already your concrete reality. Maybe you see yourself reviewing your finances, feeling a profound sense of total security, not a fleeting wave of relief, but rock-solid stability. It is the quiet confidence of someone who views wealth as entirely mundane. Or perhaps you picture yourself in a perfectly aligned partnership, where the dominant emotion isn't frantic excitement, but the peaceful, grounded joy of truly belonging. It might be a vision of you engaging in deeply purposeful work that utilizes your highest talents, where you feel no arrogance or shock, just the undeniable alignment of a master in their element. Keep the mental picture uncomplicated and crystalline. It must be happening now, not in some imaginary future. Pay close attention to this crucial distinction. You are not pining for this vision. You are occupying it. The chemistry flooding your veins isn't the ache of wanting. It is the serene normalcy of ownership. It is the unremarkable, accepted truth of your daily existence. This is the law of assumption in action, exactly as Neville Goddard taught. This is the precise physiological state the ancient adepts devoted decades to mastering, and you are holding it right now. Marinate in this space. Let the emotion take deeper root. Let the mental scene grow richer, more detailed, and fully inhabited. Train your biology to recognize this vibration. Let your nervous system log this as your permanent baseline. permanently shifting your electromagnetic output away from the almost and locking into the already. You are walking through the portal at this very moment. Now, while completely submerged in this frequency, embedded in the harmony of Ma'at, you must speak. Do not shout. Do not put on a theatrical performance. Utter a single, crystalline sentence declaring your reality as a present, undeniable fact. Do not say, I wish to be wealthy. State, I am wealthy. Never say, I hope to find my path. Declare, I am walking my true path. Instead of I am trying to get better, say, I am perfectly whole. Speak this truth exactly once. Say it softly, projecting it from the very core of your chest. Let it ride the wave of your completed reality, backed by the unified coherence of a mind and body aligned in Ma'at. This is how Thoth wielded the word. This is the raw power of Heka surging through an unblocked channel. You are not tossing a hopeful plea into the void. You are issuing an absolute decree. This is the programming language of the cosmos, the flawlessly synchronized broadcast of a soul that has abandoned the chase and embraced the acquisition. The quantum field has no alternative but to accept this command. Take one more deep breath. Allow the physical sensations to integrate. Let the mental picture dissolve not into a memory of something you lost, but into the ambient background of your daily life. This is no longer a temporary state you visit. It is the home you return to. Because you have finally stepped through the gateway. You have arrived on the other side. Allow your eyes to slowly flutter open. Cling to that internal sensation for as long as possible. Pay attention to what has changed, not the physical objects in the room, but the landscape within you. Notice the altered texture of your presence, the new physical settledness in your biology, and the distinct energetic broadcast you are currently emitting. A realignment has occurred. Perhaps it was a subtle tremor, or perhaps it was a seismic shift, but a definitive change has taken place. And regardless of its magnitude, this shift is authentic. It is quantifiable. It marks the extraction of the very first boulder from your internal riverbed. It represents the inaugural flash of true Ma'at within a nervous system that has been running the almost script for a lifetime. This is the threshold, and you have just stepped past it. I want to pause our journey for a moment and pose a question. Reflect on a specific chapter in your life when you knew without a shadow of a doubt, bypassing mere hope, that you had crossed a point of no return. A defining juncture where reality pivoted instantly. A moment when you stood at the precipice, made the choice to step forward, and found the landscape on the other side irreversibly transformed. Share that exact moment in the comments below. Don't write a long narrative. State it as a firm confirmation, a declaration of Ma'at. Acknowledging the monumental thresholds you've already conquered is how you prove to yourself that you possess the inherent power to conquer this one. Now, we must discuss what actually awaits you on this new side of the threshold. This is crucial because the reality of the other side drastically differs from popular imagination. In fact, misunderstanding the destination is a massive boulder in the riverbed all on its own. It is a core contradiction that traps people in a cycle of almost crossing without ever fully landing. The common fantasy is that immediately upon crossing the threshold of prosperity, the external world instantly shapeshifts. People expect their bank balances to magically multiply, their relationships to instantly heal, and their careers to transform overnight. And yes, those material conditions do eventually mutate. They alter as a secondary reaction to your new frequency, the unavoidable consequence of the quantum matrix reshaping itself to match your upgraded signal. However, those material changes are never the first thing you notice upon arrival. The immediate primary transformation is the sheer quality of your own presence. While trapped on the almost side of the boundary, your existence carries a very specific, frantic flavor. It is the flavor of endless pursuit. You are perpetually in transit, forever hurtling toward a destination, locked in a chronic state of not quite there yet. This state breeds a subtle but relentless muscular and mental tension. It is the exhausting, low-grade strain of a person eternally reaching for a finish line that keeps moving, Because you have lived inside this tension for so long, it becomes invisible to you. It is your baseline reality, the default filter through which you experience the entire world. But when you truly cross the threshold, when the shift is visceral, when the law of assumption becomes your lived truth, and your biological frequency actively locks into the very first thing you experience is the sudden absence of that strain. The frantic reaching evaporates. You step into a state of presence that isn't lazy, apathetic, or defeated, but deeply anchored, settled, present. It is the undeniable aura of an individual who is no longer commuting toward their life, but actively inhabiting it. You are no longer chasing your calling. You embody it. You are no longer approaching wealth. You reside within it. This profound shift in presence radically alters your daily navigation of the world. It changes your speech patterns, your listening depth, and your decision-making matrix. Most importantly, it completely rewrites how you react to setbacks that would have previously triggered your sabotage script. Doors will still close on this side of the threshold. Unforeseen variables will still alter your plans, and the world will still behave unpredictably. But when a door slams shut now, you no longer interpret it as brutal evidence of another almost. You don't view it as a failure. You recognize it as pure data. You see it as the universe intelligently pivoting, actively reorganizing the maze to match your new already frequency. A closed door is no longer the cosmos rejecting you. It is the cosmos operating with flawless precision, actively steering you away from a dead end and routing you directly toward the gateway that is genuinely meant for you. This is the ultimate distinction between existing within Ma'at and existing in chaos. It doesn't guarantee a life devoid of obstacles or a world where every single desire is instantly granted. Rather, it means your relationship to reality is entirely reconfigured. The hidden software that used to trigger disasters at the final countdown, the glitch that drained your accounts and mutated almost into never was, powered entirely by your old frequency. And since you are no longer broadcasting that signal, the sabotage program simply lacks the power to run. There is one more profound shift waiting on the other side. It is slightly more abstract to explain, but you will feel it in your bones the second it happens. Your perception of time completely changes. On the side of almost, time acts as an enemy. It feels like a crushing weight, a depleting resource that constantly highlights your lack of progress. It serves as a painful scorecard tallying how long you've been stuck, how many times you've failed, and how agonizingly far away your goal still seems. Time is simply the measuring stick of your delay, a heavy ledger recording every not yet. This oppressive relationship with time, experiencing it as proof of absence and the vast gulf separating you from your desires. Experiencing time as a heavy burden is actually a massive engine for generating the almost vibration. Every single second you spend agonizing over the clock ticking is a second you actively radiate the energy of not yet. You are broadcasting that you are still waiting, signaling to the universe that your reality is trapped in an unreachable future, rather than existing right here, right now. Once you cross the boundary, the nature of time transforms. The clocks don't tick at a different speed, but your internal relationship with the passage of time completely shifts. When you genuinely inhabit the frequency of having, when the law of assumption is your lived truth, and your electromagnetic output achieves pure coherence, time ceases to be a painful yardstick of your delay. Instead, it simply becomes the necessary physical canvas upon which your newly formed energetic reality paints itself into the material dimension. The tangible manifestation of your goal is already rolling toward you. This isn't happening because you are anxiously holding your breath waiting for it, but because the definitive directive has been dispatched. The quantum matrix has registered your order, and the wave of infinite possibilities has already collapsed into a single certainty. The eventual physical arrival is merely the echoing, final phase of a process that is already 100% complete on an energetic level. Do not mistake this state for laziness, surrender, or blind hope. This is a highly active, sharply focused state of being. You are operating as a commander who has issued an absolute decree and now navigates the physical world fully synchronized with that incoming reality. your daily behaviors naturally evolve. You make choices identical to the fulfilled version of yourself, not as an act of pretending, but because you literally embody that identity. Actions born from the almost loop corrupt your momentum. When you hustle from a state of still trying to arrive, your efforts are stained with an underlying panic and a lingering doubt that your plans will actually work. The universe and the people around you can smell that desperation. It scrambles your broadcast, muddying the signal with the static of need. Conversely, actions triggered from the already are pure. They are sharp, confident, and completely untainted by desperation. They represent the effortless flow of an individual who isn't straining to conjure a life, but naturally expressing the life they already possess. Because of this energetic purity, completely different avenues open up. On the surface, the physical steps you take might look exactly the same as before, but the energetic engine driving them has transformed. The cosmos answers your core essence, not just your surface-level hustling. This is the true divine vocabulary. It is the synchronized, Ma'at-aligned vibration of a soul residing firmly in the arrived. Thoth's supremacy didn't stem from memorizing mystical syllables. His absolute power came from becoming the exact, living embodiment of the forces he summoned. There was zero separation between his spoken word and his internal spirit. His electromagnetic signature was flawlessly matched to the reality he commanded. He was Ma'at, the breathing expression of cosmic law, and the universe had no choice but to organize itself around his voice. This is the exact threshold you are crossing. This is the magnitude of what you are becoming. And you must realize you are not undertaking this journey in isolation. Right now, at this exact moment, countless others are absorbing these words alongside you. They are standing at the identical threshold, cleansing their inner rivers, anchoring into Ma'at, and tuning their broadcasts into a unified frequency the quantum field cannot ignore. Transitioning as a collective holds immense power. We don't cross together because we need an audience, but because when multiple minds lock onto the same resonant frequency simultaneously, the combined electromagnetic surge exponentially amplifies the entire group's broadcast. We elevate each other's signal. If this transmission has fundamentally altered your physiological baseline, if you can feel the shift in your body, the new texture of your presence, and the settling of your nervous system, I need you to participate. Do not do this as a hollow ritual, but as a pure act of Ma'at. From the absolute certainty of your new reality, declare this truth, not as a wishful plea, but as an ironclad statement of fact announcing a reality already completed in the quantum field. My cycle ends now. Type it below. This is not a mere comment. It is your official declaration of having crossed over. Stepping across this boundary marks a permanent point of no return. By declaring that truth from a deep space of possession and transmitting that frequency rooted in authentic Ma'at, you permanently disrupt the old software. It simply cannot execute with its former momentum. The previous vibration loses its grip. A vital circuit has been broken. You have illuminated the hidden mechanisms, and you can never unsee that truth. Your loop terminates today. Take a moment to reflect on this. Who else in your circle is currently lingering at their personal crossroads? Consider a friend or loved one trapped in their own nearly there loop, someone who constantly nears a breakthrough only to self-sabotage at the finish line. Someone ripe for this awakening, even if they lack the vocabulary to articulate it. Keep them in your thoughts for a second. Now, I must speak directly to a specific voice in your head. There is inevitably a skeptical fragment within you whispering, "Sure, but I've attempted all of this. I did the vision boards, the daily mantras, and the rituals, yet my reality remains stagnant. I know overtly positive people whose lives are absolute disasters, but I deeply respect that skeptical voice. I won't wave it away, because that voice is entirely correct. It highlights a massive blind spot that mainstream manifestation coaches and reality creation gurus purposely ignore. They skip it because it is deeply uncomfortable and demands a caliber of self-honesty that is, in itself, an embodiment of Ma'at. Surface-level tactics fail completely when the old operating system is still humming in the background. Chanting positive phrases is useless if your cellular biology is screaming with insecurity. Mental imagery accomplishes nothing if your nervous system remains locked in the vibration of not quite. The techniques themselves aren't necessarily broken. However, you cannot forcefully declare your arrival, while your physical biology actively projects the frantic energy of the chase. You cannot demand the cosmos listen to your words while ignoring your energetic footprint. Your biological broadcast is infinitely louder. It never stops. It is the only metric the quantum fabric truly measures. This is exactly why the initial stage attaining Ma'at and dredging your internal riverbed is mandatory. It isn't a bonus step. It is the fundamental prerequisite required for any of this to operate. You cannot bend matter from a fractured consciousness. The generative magic of Heka cannot flow through a clogged pipeline. You are incapable of speaking the divine vocabulary if your body is secretly murmuring a completely contradictory dialect. Cultivating authentic Ma'at and purging your riverbed demands a practice most humans actively avoid. It requires total self-interrogation. This isn't about cruel self-judgment or shame, but razor-sharp, objective honesty. You must be brave enough to identify your internal hypocrisies. You must hunt down the contradictions. Where is the chasm between your stated values and your biological broadcast? In what areas of your life are you agreeing when your soul screams no? Which daily habits are driven by terror rather than authenticity? What comforting lies do you repeat that your nervous system immediately rejects as falsehoods? Where is the internal grinding? Where is the energetic interference? What are the actual boulders choking your river? Every single one of those hypocrisies generates static. They scramble your transmission and feed power back into the almost script. Yet, the moment you drag these hidden truths into the light without frantically trying to fix them or force a fake positivity, they naturally begin to dissolve. Pure observation is the genesis of Ma'at. Acknowledging exactly where you are broken is the vital first step toward becoming whole. This is the secret of Ka's 3 days by the water. He didn't rush into the crowds and hustle harder. He abandoned the loud decrees and complex rituals. He simply sat and subjected himself to ruthless, unfiltered self-reflection. Through that process of profound, non-judgmental observation, his internal debris washed away. It required zero forceful effort. The simple act of witnessing was the cure. Fully owning your contradictions initiates their collapse. This is the heavy lifting. This is the authentic labor, not layering shallow mantras and forced imaginations over a corrupted hard drive. The real task is meticulously tracking down the root source of the almost frequency and finding exactly where your broadcast is being sabotaged. Once you are grounded in that radical transparency, anchoring yourself in the dawn of Ma'at, then you issue the command. You dictate your reality. You project the laser-focused vibration of someone who has stared down their internal darkness and refused to run from it. That is the true divine vocabulary. That is the exact power Thoth commanded. This is what the scholars of Hermopolis dedicated their earthly existences to grasping. It was never about the syllables. It was about the physiological architecture supporting them. It is the absolute unity and raw self-awareness that upgrades a desperate hope into an immovable law. But here is the most crucial revelation regarding this deep internal excavation and the pursuit of Ma'at. Your riverbed doesn't need to be spotlessly clean before you start. Absolute perfection isn't a prerequisite for transformation. You aren't required to dredge every single boulder from your internal river before the currents of your life start flowing with greater ease. Each spark of brutal honesty hauls another rock out of the water. Any flash of authentic Ma'at, no matter how fleeting, generates a pulse of pure, coherent energy. When you catch yourself faking a positive mantra while your gut radiates anxiety, and you consciously halt that performance to simply acknowledge your true state, you are aligning. That exact choice is Heka waking up. That is the moment the old sabotage software begins to crash. The transformation isn't entirely instantaneous. To be precise, the energetic pivot does happen in a flash within the quantum matrix. However, the material translation of that shift reveals itself gradually, as your upgraded broadcast locks in. It takes time for fresh neural networks to fortify and for your new electromagnetic output to solidify as your permanent residence instead of a temporary vacation spot. This highlights the true purpose of daily practice. It isn't a hollow ritual to act out. It is a method for continually dragging your awareness back to the frequency of possession. It's about repeatedly conditioning your biology to accept this new standard. You must broadcast this unified pulse relentlessly until it flows effortlessly. The sensation of "I have it" must eclipse the memory of "I almost have it." The architecture of arrival must overwrite the blueprint of endless approaching. The mystics of antiquity operated exactly like this. They didn't rely on one theatrical leap. They committed to the rigorous, daily discipline of re-entering Ma'at. They dredged their inner rivers a fraction more each morning. They issued their vocal commands with sharpening clarity day by day, amplifying the already vibration until it overpowered everything else, leaving the cosmos no alternative but to bend to their will. This is your blueprint now. That internal exercise we just completed wasn't a one-and-done magic trick. It was the establishment of a brand new biological baseline. It forged a fresh default setting of vibration you must intentionally re-enter and deepen daily, making it progressively more authentic with every single repetition. The portal isn't a finite doorway you cross to instantly reach the end. It is a boundary line. Once you step over it, your daily task is to journey further into that new territory. With each sunrise, your already frequency grows denser, more synchronized, and infinitely more potent. Daily, the obsolete software starves for fuel. Daily, your energetic transmission becomes sharper, purer, and flawlessly matched to the material world you are dictating. This embodies the divine vocabulary. It is never a momentary magic spell. It is a permanent living condition. It is a vibration you fuse with, a mode of operating so utterly congruent and saturated in Ma'at that reality is compelled to arrange itself at your feet. Now, let's ground all of this so it transitions from philosophical theory into your breathing reality. You arrived at this message burdened by a relentless cycle, a hidden script that had run so continuously you mistook it for the truth of the world. The loop of nearly there, the endless commute with no destination, the vibration of the door slamming at the 11th hour, the wealth slipping through your fingers, and the sure thing collapsing at the finish line. You now possess absolute clarity regarding that virus. You see the cogs turning. You know why it tormented you. It wasn't because you were cursed or inadequate. It was simply because your biological broadcasting tower was pumping out the almost frequency nonstop. It was the static of a fractured mind, the hum of severe internal discord, and the consequence of a debris-choked riverbed suffocating your natural creative power. You have identified the portal. It is the precise border separating the vibration of, nearly from the resonance of, already. The line between the agony of wanting and the peace of owning. The gulf between chasing a dream and physically inhabiting it. It marks the difference between a plea whispered by a fragmented soul and an absolute decree delivered by an undivided master. You finally grasp the toll required to step through. It isn't found in trendier manifestation hacks, louder screaming in the mirror, or fancier vision boards. The key is Ma'at. It is the brutal, transparent, yet forgiving excavation of your internal river. It is the razor-sharp identification of your own hypocrisies. It is the mastery of total inner synchronization, fusing your thoughts, speech, and physical actions into one laser-focused beam that elevates a mere hope into an unbendable cosmic law. You know what awaits on the new horizon. It isn't a fairy tale inheritance magically dropping into your lap. It is an entirely new caliber of presence. It is a fresh paradigm of existing, a vibration of absolute fulfillment that rewires your posture, your speech, your reflexes to adversity, and exactly how the quantum matrix folds around you. It is the embodiment of Ma'at, allowing Heika to surge without resistance. It is the pure, undistorted broadcast that speaks the language of creation, compelling the universe to follow your instructions by its very design. And you have initiated this crossing. You haven't finished the journey. but you have successfully breached the perimeter. You physically felt the pivot. You tasted the already vibration, even for a moment, and you issued a command from that sovereign turret. You have successfully broadcast a fresh frequency into the quantum matrix. The old software has crashed. Your relentless loop is shattered. This wasn't achieved through my words, but through your active participation. It happened because you finally chose to cross the threshold instead of lingering safely at the boundary line. My cycle ends now. Repeat it. Do not say it as a hopeful reminder, but as ironclad proof of a completed event. Declare it as a material fact already established in the energetic realm. My cycle ends now. The doorway is now firmly behind you. You occupy the new territory. Return is impossible. This is the boundary you conquered today. You have made the leap from the vocabulary of nearly to the divine dialect of creation. The evolution from the vibration of chasing to the resonance of possessing. The upgrade from an endless loop to a brand new timeline. You have moved from using words as passive commentary to wielding them as absolute law. You transformed a desperate wish into an undeniable decree. The profound shift from almost to already. Thoth grasped this perfectly. The master scholars of Hermopolis lived by it. Every profound mystical lineage that truly deciphered the link between human consciousness and physical reality recognized this exact mechanism. And now, you possess this knowledge too, not as intellectual data, but as a visceral, somatic reality. You feel it in your flesh. It is the new foundation of your electromagnetic aura, radiating a pristine, upgraded signal directly from your heart center out into the quantum web. The cosmos has registered your transmission and is already moving to meet it. The collapse of infinite probability into singular reality has started. The tangible, physical proof is hurtling toward you. It isn't arriving because you are patiently waiting, but because you issued a sovereign directive. The decree was uttered by an entity anchored in Ma'at. The generative power of Heika is rushing through an unobstructed channel. You have shed the identity of the eternal seeker. You are now the one who has arrived. This is the ultimate creative code. This is the secret Thoth guarded, and you have successfully navigated past the gatekeepers. Welcome to your new reality. The pathway was eternally unbarred. You simply had to decide to walk through. Once you make this leap, once your biology genuinely tastes the vibration of completion, once you vocalize your truth from the absolute center of Ma'at, your energetic blueprint alters permanently. Complete regression is impossible. The obsolete software may occasionally attempt to reboot. Dormant neural circuits might spark, and the ghost of your old frequency could try to pull you down. However, you now carry the antidote. You know the difference. You have physically occupied the higher state. That visceral cellular knowledge acts as a permanent vault door that locks behind you. This is exactly why the title declares there is no returning. It is not a threat. It is an ironclad guarantee detailing the permanent evolution you just underwent. Whenever you hit a wall of hesitation in the future, standing before a new precipice and doubting your strength, return to this broadcast. Allow this frequency to re-anchor you. Furthermore, if you recognize a loved one drowning in their own loop of nearly, send this to them. Offer it not as unsolicited advice, but as a lifeline. Passing this frequency to another person at their critical juncture doesn't just liberate them, it exponentially fortifies your own energetic field. Two minds acknowledging the exact same portal simultaneously forge a harmonic resonance far greater than either could summon individually. The reality of the leap magnifies for you both. You cannot retreat. The loop dies today. The command has left your lips. The cosmic matrix has heard you, and it is actively molding to your will. The exact vibration that propelled you past this barrier is expanded upon in our next piece. Once you cross this frequency gate, there is no going back. That broadcast dives profoundly into the aftermath of your leap. It prepares you for the inevitable moment when your dying ego makes one last, desperate bid to drag you backward, a moment that will arrive sooner than you anticipate. Recognizing the face of that resistance changes the entire game.